Yo, fam, what's up, man? You know what it is. It's your boy, Sebastian Sanders. We are back with another edition to the Money Monday series. Today, I want to get real deep. I want to get real personal. I want to talk about something that's big in our culture and the community. When I say that, I'm talking about the African American community. Today, I want to talk about, when you think about poverty, you think about pain, you think about all the different things that go inside of our community. It goes back down to the root, right? And it goes down to our generation, goes down to our kids. And you start thinking about in today's world, right? For me, I've been working with youth since 2017, right? So I've been having 5+ years working inside different communities, different schools, different after-school programs, seeing students come from different walks of life. One of the things that I've noticed, and I can only speak for African Americans because I am an African American, when I'm dealing with our young boys come from a lot of trauma, it comes from a lot of pain, and it all goes down to how people are raised, how our kids are raised, right? And so you look at the different factors of generations, why this community doesn't have enough resources, why this community have more resources, why you have more crime over here, but you have lesser crime over here. It's all about the different things, but it all boils down to one common denominator. And I say this, and I say it all the time. It's the lack of financial circulation, which breeds a gap in economic development. What that looks like is, if you ever think about like a lot of the issues that you may face, if you go inside of those communities, look at the median household income. For example, I pulled some data from one of the household incomes that we service here in the Houston, Texas area, which is going to be the Southwest. You're looking at median around $40,000 to $45,000. With inflation, with things being so expensive, with everything that's going on, it's nearly impossible to raise not only just one child, but think of 2, 3, 4 different kids inside of a home off of a $45,000 income, right? And you start thinking about that. Well, why is that? Then you think about the parents, think about their education, where they come from. They may not have a college degree. They may not have no business experience. They may not have good credit. All of those different things comes down to that lack of financial circulation. But in addition to the circulation, there's not enough literacy inside of our communities. Right? So if you think about what can we do to combat that issue, what we have to do as community leaders, as minority leaders, as business owners, we have to figure out how do we provide these different communities, not only with the resources, but with an opportunity to bring in more income for their families. We have to figure out how can we take what we're doing in the center of the city, which is primarily going to be your downtown and your midtown, the areas that have more income flowing through, have more opportunities for jobs, and have more locations and more resources. How do we filter what we have going on in other places and bring it back to the impoverished areas and that people really don't want to talk about? It's important that we uphold these areas because it all goes back down to what I was saying earlier. Our kids are affected by this. You got kids who may not necessarily get to be a kid because they have to grow up faster than others because they don't have what the kid down the street has. Little Sally can go home and be a kid, but little JoJo down the street, he has to take care of his brother and his sister. That means he has to start working at an early age. He can't do sports. And then you start thinking about that. That's not just one situation. There's a million of those situations across the entire world. And so as leaders, it's important that we figure out, how do we dig our kids out of this trauma? How do we dig our kids out of this pain? Because that's the next generation. You got to think about those kids are our future. If we don't give them enough resources and enough love and enough encouragement to be whatever they want to be in life, it's going to be hard for us to expect them to change things because each generation is going to be a change maker, right? So we got to look at what does that look like for our kids? One of the things that we do here at the Sanders Hand is with the Young Billionaires Club, it's all about teaching kids financial empowerment, teaching kids how to start their own business, teaching kids how to go open a checkers account, go open a savings account, teaching them the different investments that they can make as a youth. We're building these leaders up. And the reason why we start so young, we start around maybe 12 years old. Sometimes we even start younger than that is because kids are impressionable. What you teach a kid today at 3 years old, that's going to stick with them for the rest of their life. And if we start while they're young, they're going to go and they're going to mold. We all develop. You're not the same person you was when you was 11 years old and you're 35 years old today. At 11 years old, you might have didn't want to eat pickles or onions and no vegetables. Today, you may be vegan. You may be eating all the vegetables in the world. So kids are going to continue to grow and develop, and we have to put them in a position as leaders. And so kind of going back to what I was saying earlier is when I look at our kids, especially our black kids, that trauma and pain, it's generations of pain, right? You think of the mom and the dad may not be present. The mom and the dad may be split. He or she may only have one parent in their life. There's so many things that our kids are up against. And that's because our communities, they're just not being developed at all, if we're just being quite honest. And a lot of times we tend to point the finger and we may say, oh, the mayor didn't do this for us, or the councilwoman or the councilman didn't do this for us. Those are the people that are in a position of influence. Yeah, we expect them to help us. But at the same time, as I always tell people, nobody's going to save us but us. It may be up to you as a local leader to go in and install after-school programs that give out free books to the kids, give out free food to the kids. You can't be waiting on Mayor JoJo down the street to do something when he or she may not even know what's going on inside of your community. So it takes a different person to step out on the front line and say, hey, we want to save our kids, we want to save our communities, we want to develop them to the next level. And in order to do so, it takes intentional giving. And I'm not saying giving just to give out some money here and there, take a few pictures. No, be on the front line with your kids, be on the front line with your people, and support them unconditionally, because it goes a long way inside of community development. And like I said earlier, black kids are not necessarily born bad. They're just born in the trauma and that pain. And that pain gets recycled, and it gets recycled. Mama didn't like daddy, so she may have some resentment towards the son and vice versa. And so that boy may grow up with some resentment towards his mama, resentment towards women, because he doesn't know how to love, because he's going through generational pain. He wasn't born as a bad person. He just got born into a situation where it's nothing but pain and trauma around him. He was born into a situation where there's not enough money flowing around the family, so he may have to go out and join maybe a gang or go do some illegal things to go and get some money, but he's only doing so to feed his little sister or his little brother. That's not fair to him. He may want to be a basketball player. He may be having all the good skills in the world to be the best hooper, but he couldn't go on to live that path or go down that path because he wasn't born into a situation that was fair for him. Now, things happen. Kids happen. I'm not saying that don't have kids or anything like that, but before we tend to have these kids in our communities, we got to figure out, are we putting them in the right position? Do I have everything together to bring a child into this world? Kids are the most precious thing in this world, and before you step out and do so, or you know somebody that might have done so, you might want to help out or do the best thing that you can do to put them in a position to live a long and a fruitful life. Because when they're born inside that trauma and the pain, it's hard to turn that tide around at 10, 11 years old when he done spent the last 10 years of he or she's life in pain. It's hard to say, okay, nah, we're gonna turn the table and flip things over, because that's all that child may know. It may take them 20, 30 years before they become an adult to say, I want to change things. But as a child, it's very hard for them, because then and mentally it's confusing to them. They go through so much before they even get to high school, and better yet, college. So with all that being said, I'm big on development. I'm big on working with our kids, but I'm calling out for help. I'm calling out for my leaders, my local people, my local influencers. I need your assistance just like you need my assistance. Let's do more for our kids. Let's do more. Because what we're not saying and what we're not seeing is social media is such a huge influence on their lives. These kids are trying to do what they see the local rapper do, the local basketball player. They're trying to figure out, how can I live that life? How can I get all I can to live that specific life? And it's important that we jump out in front of them and we turn that around and say, hey, you can go and be a scientist. You can go and be a doctor. You can go and be a nurse. You can go and be a construction worker. There's more things out there than just the typical. And I can only speak from African Americans, because typically what you want to do as a young boy, you want to be that local rapper or that local athlete, because you feel like that's all that people care about. You go down the block, you say, hey man, I just got 100 on my test. They laughing at you. Oh, look at this nerd. But if you go away and play basketball and you the best rapper, people may lift you up. How do we change that for our kids? I'm not saying nothing wrong with being a rapper or athlete, because at one point I wanted to be both. But I'm not. But I was able to figure out, okay, you got to do something else. And I was able to do something else, and I'm successful at it. But there's a little boy, there's a little girl who's trying to do the same thing, and they need your help. Don't look for change. Be the change. Stop riding around saying somebody should have bought that house. Somebody should have built that school for them kids. Somebody should have did that. Stop looking and point fingers, and you do it. It's your time. Somebody needs you. There's a you in this world that needs you. You know what it is, man. It's Money Mondays, man. It's trauma and pain, generational wealth, generational success, generational pain. We can pass down that money, but at the same time, we can pass down generational pain as well. Our kids need your help. Will you help?